I have been saying for how long? One of the main ways that we are going to deal with the housing crisis in the United States, which is too expensive, not enough housing, is we have to build more housing. Joe Biden is now saying this straight up, and it's a great thing to hear from the president. Joe Biden spoke yesterday to the National League of Cities, and he said we have to build to bring down the cost of housing. He's finally saying it. I've been saying it for a decade. Listen to what President Joe Biden had to say, then we'll discuss what such a program might look like.
For those seeking to buy their first home or trade up for a little more space, I propose the tax cut will provide $400 a month for the next 2 years. Because every family deserves a place to call home and a place to have your American dreams come true. Look, millions of renters are also out there in trouble. We're also cracking down on those landlords who break the antitrust laws by price fixing those rents. Landlords should be competing to give folks the best deal, not conspiring to charge them higher rent. We also cut red tape so more builders can get federal financing, which is already helping construct a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide. Because of you. And the federal budget that I'm releasing today has a plan for 2 million more affordable homes, including housing innovation fund to help communities like yours build housing, renovate housing, and convert empty office space and hotels into housing. Housing for renters, for owners, middle-class families, and folks struggling just to get by. Look, and we realize many of you are dealing with homeless encampments in your cities and towns. Well, we're providing $8 billion to allow you to provide alternatives, to move unhoused people off the street, getting them into homes. The bottom line is we have to build. That's how we bring housing costs down for good.
You know, all this talk from the right with esoteric ideas for working around the fringes on housing, we fix the housing problem with a number of different policies, but a big chunk of that is build more housing. The more housing there is, we increase the supply, we relieve pressure on prices. And so the sort of framework I have, we'll put up on the screen, about 30%, these are rough numbers, but about 30% of the path here is build more housing. It's supply and demand, build it. Another 15% is tax incentives for affordable housing development. So, we're not going to get the private sector out of real estate. We're just, people call in, let's decommodify and all these. We're not going to get the private sector out of housing. So let's encourage the private sector to build affordable housing through tax breaks. I've seen programs like this that have worked. That's another 15%. 10%, streamline the regulatory processes to make it easier to get new housing projects approved. In so many cities, I know developers, they say, I would love to do 30 units, 15 affordable. It's years of legal work, permitting, variances, years and years and years. I'll just bail and leave the lot empty. So we've got to streamline. 10%, use prefab and modular housing. This is a way that we can bring down the building costs themselves. The prefab and modular housing is getting better and better. 5% would be land value taxation. You can discourage landowners from speculating and leaving things empty to say, build something by using taxation on lots that sit empty. Not every place does that. 5% is rent control. For me, rent control isn't the biggest thing. If we really build out the supply and streamline building, you don't have to do a lot of rent control. And also, in much of the country, rent control is kind of irrelevant. But you can use rent control with some targeted policies for tenants to provide immediate relief. It's not the long-term solution, but it should be looked at. 10% government-sponsored affordable housing projects. So just get the government directly involved in some places. Building, hire the developer directly, hire the builder directly, rather. The government can, probably local and state governments. And then other little things that can be done. We've got to relax zoning laws so you can do higher density. In a lot of places, my old Brooklyn neighborhood, a large part of it, I think you can't build anything higher than 3 or 4 stories. in such a dense area, and I get it, like you want to preserve the look and there's other considerations, but there are places where if you relax zoning laws, build up a little more, you can really increase the supply, encourage community land trusts, and promote co-housing and shared housing models where it makes sense. That's a comprehensive housing plan. I love that Joe Biden is doing the, lowest hanging fruit. You got to build, 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 and you love to see it. Now let's see if we can actually do something about it.